bounty hunters. Sorry for the delay. News of my grandmother passing followed by a not-so-pleasant dental appointment killed all my will to write. Milady, as you have called, I have come, Harika says as she bows to the hologram before her. You may rise, Miss Spindle. You have totally served the Empire well, and like we offer you a chance to serve further still. The figure before her states. Harika is not personally familiar with the woman, but through rumor alone she knows that the Gravia, Lady Matrix, sits within the Empress's court of LeBlanc. Specifically, she sits as advisor to both the Lady of War and the Lady of Commerce, advising both in equal measure. Her chosen form has gray skin and white hair to both blend and contrast with her immaculate white gown. This is to do with my comments on the Chainbreaker, isn't it? Totally, Lady Matrix states, as she moves her image goes to a series of abstract shapes in a gown before reforming into a woman that looks more real than real. You totally showed fierce protectiveness of them, because they totally showed fierce protectiveness of their own. Yes, and there were little notes describing how totally unfair it was that you had to stay professional, Lady Matrix says with a smile on her dark lips. Now, what I'd like to do is for you to get what you want as we get what we want. And is that we a plural or a royal we, milady? Harika asks. Totally both, Lady Matrix says. It's been totally agreed, unanimously, that Holy LeBlanc and the Undaunted are compatible cultures. One wants the best overall culture, and the other wants the best people. Yes, this is fairly obvious from interacting with them. While we of Holy Lablin seek to be a greater people, the Undaunted seek to be better as people. For as confusing as that might be to say, don't worry, I totally understand, Lady Matrix says before nodding. Her presence temporarily goes down to very primitive and seemingly fake, then back into hyper-realistic. Gravia that relax and let their bodies just cycle normally constrain the eye. Those that control it are somehow more disturbing, which is why there was no consensus among the Gravia as to which to be. Now we've been watching the pattern. The Chainbreaker is totally going on a recruiting spree, and not like only fighters. All Undaunted ships are on a talent search. They've got themselves two girls, Begrob Sally and Susie Lou, sisters both. One totally a shooter and the other a weaponsmith. Yes, I am aware of them, although neither of them spoke much to me about my charge. Totally aware. One talked about how scary he could be with his drones, and the other was totally complimentary about his skill putting them together, Lady Matrix says, which totally brings us to you. It does? It totally does, Lady Matrix says. We have not had any real contact or communications with the humans so far. Before this, we were only kind of sure about what they were. But now we totally see that even if the humans a whole aren't like this, then it's still worth it to have some solid cultural outreach. And how does this involve me? I am not a cultural outreach official or a proper representative of the LeBlanc Empire. But you totally are. While we're totally going to make contact with their official headquarters at their main ship and the embassy, there needs to be another set of eyes on the ground. One that understands people and totally has a good introduction into things. Also, you'd like to be there. I would, but it would be very inappropriate for me to simply run off and join their ship. I have my own career in life and no romantic prospects that have panned out. A job that you love and a totally limited social circle after the office event, Lady Matrix says, and Harika resists a flinch. She hates it being brought up. Oftentimes, the price of doing the right thing is the loathing of the people who should have done it first. It's totally a tragedy when the people of LeBlanc can't live up to the dreams we share. But that's the whole reason we keep trying, because we're totally not there yet, and might never be. It's not the destination, it's the journey, Harika says, and Lady Matrix claps her hands together and nods. That's totally it. See? You live it. You've totally embraced it, Lady Matrix says in a happy tone. It's your choice. You She coughs into her fist and takes a deep breath. She then opens her eyes and fixes Harika with a look that pierces through the hologram. It's your choice. You are not a member of our military. You have only sworn to follow our laws and live under our protection. You do not have the obligations of the command class, let alone the higher-ranking nobles. You have every right to refuse, and this will not reflect poorly on you. The Gravia glances away from a moment before her lips quirk. Although some women will question why a healthy young lady, such as yourself, refused to join up with a ship full of strapping men. But that will be as far as it goes. That I can promise you. Your accent, ma'am, is an accent. Gravia, like myself, are naturally taught and conditioned by our own language and culture to be as clear as possible. But galactic trade is so unclear compared to our own language that we will use conditioners such as totally and like to indicate certainty and approximation where appropriate. It takes a little mental planning to speak without it, but it's merely reflexive habit, not overwhelming compulsion. I could tell my accent was starting to irritate, so I apologize for the discomfort. I accept, however, this does not change the issue of things being a concern about potential corruption or foul play. I just finished evaluating them as an appropriate home for the newly risen Lord Slytherin. To say that people will decry this as a conflict of interest is the least of the concerns. There are also, you are free to refuse. Lady Matrix cuts her off, and Harika comes up short. For a moment, both women simply regard each other. Then, as there are no protests from Miss Spindle, Lady Matrix slowly smiles. If you are willing to accept, then I can arrange for everything you need to be in order. But the better an idea we get about the Undaunted, the better off it will be for all. Their dedication to self-improvement and our dedication to societal improvement means that we will have a great many interactions. The Council and I would like to see what those interactions will be. Are you sending anyone else? We've requested several volunteers and then had to pare them down and hold a lottery for who could be in the proper lottery. You, Miss Spindle, will be the envy of many a woman. You're at the front of the queue. What is the plan? We have a group of 5 volunteers that will be offering to join the Chainbreakers. No doubt they will know that we are trying to get a read on them, so any more than 5 soldiers and a civilian will be a bit much. Granted, the Chainbreakers could refuse, but with how large their ship is and how eagerly they recruit, I doubt they will. And what will be expected of me? I'm no spy, not any kind of infiltrator. I'm not even a fully accredited psychologist. The accreditation can be taken care of. You'll need a quick test and primer to get you onto the newly revised standard level. However, you can easily earn your doctorate. You sound so certain. Your old essays and lessons still hold a great deal of promise, and while the standards shave tightened somewhat, they're still strong enough to get a passing grade. All right, putting aside how much my own life seems to have been examined under a microscope, we're ignoring the issue that the Chainbreakers are far from stupid and may very well refuse on the reasonable ground of not wanting to be spied upon. I already have a woman working on that. Of course. I can't believe I expected any less. Harika notes in a dry tone. Well, yes. Of course we introduce ourselves like this. Of course they're going to want more. Honestly, this isn't unexpected at all. Pukey says to the figure projected from his communicator and receives a grin from the physically youthful agent in return. I know, this situation has a lot of, well, duh going around. I'm just saying the official policy is summarized as go with it. Lablin has some odd regards in some ways, but is pretty damn agreeable culture. They want to get to know us. We want to know them. Let it happen, Herbert explains. His business casual may not be as iconic as Private Stream, but it still makes him look like a child playing grown-up. It's not exactly hard. We've already invited 2 civvies in. How many more are coming? From what we can tell, they're going to assign a small honor guard to the ship to protect your son. Although, in all honesty, they're probably going to want to, well, I'm sure you can fill in the blanks. They're waiting until he's at least 18, Pukey says in a tone that brokes no argument. Hey, dial back on the big man routine. I'm on your side. I know. I'm just saying. And I'm saying as well, cool it. We have done some digging. In the rare times that noble men are outside their protective compounds in LeBlanc, they almost always have an honor guard, and that guard usually ends up on the wife list, Herbert states. Any questions? Beyond about the bow tie? Pukey snarks at him as he thinks. I'm hiding gear up here, Herbert says, reaching behind the bow tie with both hands and pulling out a grenade from one side and a pistol from the other. Nice. It also has a camera, Herbert says, tucking the weapons back away and tapping the center of the tie. But the fun little toys I have on me are neither here nor there. Do you have an actual question? Numerous ones about LeBlanc culture, I mean. What do they truly want out of my son now? What are his obligations as a noble? The information I found only listed out a number of benefits. Currently, none. He is eligible and will be fast-tracked if he wants to swear certain oaths that will grant him powers and obligations. But until he swears those oaths, it's just a fancy way of addressing him. A noble title in LeBlanc is basically a shortcut in getting into a leadership or administrative position. There are several activities restricted to nobles, such as founding new worlds, new colonies, collecting taxes and raising armies. But he still needs permission. And to get that permission, he needs to swear some oaths. So until he swears those oaths, he's just a kid they really like. So if he swears an oath, he can honestly found a noble house and start putting together, I don't know, a city on a moon that he then mines as its king. Basically, he can even raise an army or submit his name for consideration the next time there is a call for someone new to sit the imperial throne of LeBlanc. Of course, unless he has a reputation for being good for LeBlanc, he will not earn it. Heh, my boy the Emperor. Wouldn't that be a thing? Well, he already has lightning fingers and a messed up face. Throw a black hood on him and call it a day. I really don't think he'd be that kind of emperor. Search your feelings. You know it to be true? Pretty sure that's not an actual quote, and even more sure you've been around the nerds too much. Really? The magic bow tie with a camera wasn't clue enough? Herbert and Pukey scoffs. So, my little boy's getting an honor guard. As if you and everyone else on the ship weren't already doing that work, Herbert remarks and Pukey snorts. Yeah, we're also teaching him how to do his own. Kids learned how to point an arsenal of guns at people without anyone realizing it until he lets them see it. Pukey says and Herbert nods. Drones are much more viable than we first assumed, and Slytherin is certainly leading the way, Herbert notes before focusing. How much longer do you plan to be on Mordnan? Until the competition gets too fierce or the work dries up. We were planning on sticking around for a bit anyways, and there's still more, especially with local law enforcement making a lot of other bounty hunters nervous. All right then. Hell, you could use it as a way to see how well the new crew members and such fit in. Hey, we haven't accepted yet. Are you not going to? Unless they prove to be complete loonies, yes, they're welcome. But, actually, I don't have an argument. No doubt they're vetting who they're sending, so I look forward to reading the report, Herbert says. Now, is there any more information you need? Will ghost metal bullets ever become a thing? Only if we ramp up production to ludicrous levels and get massive factory lines devoted to it. You saw it for yourself. The alterations you need to make to Tritite are so energy-intensive and difficult to pull off that the only way this become efficient enough for bullets is if we get a breakthrough or dedicate massive amounts of infrastructure to producing it. True enough, I just thought it best to ask. Anything else? Herbert asks and Pukey shakes his head. Very good. Now get back to that party before you're missed. Oh, I'm probably missed already, but it's a political party, so if people can't duck out to make a phone call, then everyone's out of luck, Pukey remarks as he cuts the connection and pockets the communicator. He takes a breath, relaxes, and Gregory comes out again. It's always useful to have a mindset for work and a mindset for relaxation. Lets you deal with everything easier.